Perfect. And we're recording. All right. Welcome to Dress Casual with Dillon Busby, everyone. I'm here with my guest, Mr. D-REK, Canas, DJ, author, HIV stigma advocate, and has a toy drive he's currently working on. Mr. Canas, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I really appreciate you reaching out. I put out on now X the other day, no, formerly Twitter. I put out on X that I was looking for some guests, and you were the first one to get back to me. So I really appreciate that. If you don't mind, I mean, are you actively looking for podcasts to be a part of? And is this something that anyone listening you want to get invited on, or are you just one-time special thing for me here?
I am always looking for opportunities to speak to anyone that will listen, especially when it comes to the stigma surrounding HIV and AIDS, because sadly it's not gone far from where it was in the early 90s.
Okay.
It's still pretty much in the same spot,
Right.
and that we need to really work on ending that.
I almost feel like it's, correct me if I'm wrong here. I almost feel like it's more, it might even be worse now. It almost feels like because, and I don't want to make it trivial, but it almost feels like because Magic Johnson has survived so long, people kind of feel, it's almost like a joke now. People are like, well, Magic's fine, so AIDS isn't even a real death sentence anymore. I mean, have you kind of noticed that or any sort of sentiment like that?
Well, and a lot of it has to do with commercials now saying it's one pill a day, it's an injection a day. There's injections that'll last a month, 2 months. I mean, there's so many med options. But what they don't talk about is the side effects that come with those meds. These meds are very, very harsh. Anybody that knows the original story of the meds, the original HIV meds were meds that were taken off the market because they were given to cancer patients.
Are
And
you
they
referring to AZT specifically?
AZT.
Okay.
And AZT was pulled because all it was doing was killing people. And it killed so many cancer patients, they pulled it. And that's what they started giving the first, the HIV and AIDS patients. And, the ones that survived it, are still, some of them are still around today. But, sadly, a lot of people lost their lives with pharmaceutical companies playing games and doing the back and forth of, we don't know what to do. Does this make us money? The corporation part of it is the saddest part.
Yeah, I mean, within the past few years, it kind of sounds familiar, right? Not knowing to trust the pharmaceutical companies and things being put out there and being told to just take it, everything's fine, it's safe and effective. And oddly enough, there's a connection between, recent discussions like that with the pandemic and the HIV, AIDS era, right? With Dr. Fauci.
Yeah,
He was in
yeah.
charge of that as
Fauci
well.
is tied to both. Yeah,
That-
Fauci is tied to both.
And that was the focus of the movie Dallas Buyers Club, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
Dallas Buyers Club. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out for sure.
Have you known anyone who's had to, or have you yourself had to go outside of the country for your own medications?
No, thankfully I haven't. I been very fortunate in that respect that I haven't. That once I got diagnosed, I really did get a good medical team, and I've been very fortunate with having really good doctors. And I'm currently undetectable, so I'm of no risk to anybody.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I've rebuilt my immune system back from when I was diagnosed. I didn't have an immune system. I built it back. I think I may have had a handful of T cells left that they could find, but I had more of the virus in my body than I had an immune system. I had what was called wasting syndrome,
Hmm.
which means your body is pretty much actively dying and slowly starting to shut itself down. And I came back from that. I was able, because of the meds and everything, I was able to come back. And, I'm here today, 20 something years later. It's crazy.
No,
It's
that is
crazy.
awesome. And
It's crazy to be diagnosed at 16, and now I just turned 39, and 40's powering down on me. It's pretty wild.
yeah, let's dig into that. So you found out when you were 16 because, and we can, this sort of speaks to the stigma. When I first understood that you were contracted with HIV and AIDS, this speaks to the stigma. I was assuming, okay, was it sexual contact? Was it drug use? But it was neither of those things. So if you don't mind just sharing how you did contract the virus and when you were diagnosed and how you found out.
What happened was, after I was born, my family realized that when I was crying, my lips would turn blue. And so they took me to the doctor. They found a heart murmur, and that started my cardiology introduction. And from there, that led me going to Augusta, Georgia, to the Medical College of Georgia, where they diagnosed me with transposition of the great arteries, which means that the blood vessels were backwards. So I was getting oxygenated blood that just flowed around my heart, and unoxygenated blood was going around my body. That's why I was turning blue. I was what was known as a blue baby. I don't know if you've ever heard that term or know that term from the 80s.
No.
And so that's what I had. And so they immediately rushed me into surgery to correct that. Had the surgery and had multiple transfusions during a 3-month hospital stay. So pretty rough surgery back then. It's 1985, so it's not like today's surgeries. It's pretty much like power tools, and it was rough. I mean, my chest is full of staples, and I've got a full zipper scar down my chest.
Wow.
I mean, every rib's been cracked. It's stapled back together. I've got lead wires from a pacemaker that was originally put in my stomach that are still there, because you can't remove the leads because you would rip part of the heart. So I have 2 sets of wires, because I currently have an adult pacemaker now in my shoulder, second one. So I'm really fun to take on a flight or like through a cruise terminal. Like I get the immediate, like, come this way. Like as soon as I go through the body scanner.
You're like a walking bomb.
Yeah, so I made it through the surgery, made it through all of that, had 15 cut blood transfusions. And a cut blood transfusion means they can't give a baby a full blood transfusion because their bodies just aren't big enough.
Gotcha.
So they part the blood and just give a little bit that is needed. So I don't know how many kids ended up with the virus on that hospital floor.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I don't know. There's no way of knowing that I had 15 different blood transfusions over those 3 months. But yeah, it took, and then after that, I mean, I was just a regular kid. I grew up like a regular kid. I was just the smaller kid.
Yeah.
I was smaller in class. I was smaller in stature and height and weight. I was on the low end of that every doctor's appointment. Kind of got old hearing that growing up. Wasn't really a big deal to me. Like my friends loved carrying me around and putting me on their shoulders. And I mean, we just kids. I mean, I busted knees, scrapes, everything, like family cleaned up wounds. I'm the only one that ever contracted it, thankfully, because nobody knew.
Right.
We didn't know to take any precautions. I mean, who would at that point? I mean, with your own kid, you're not going to worry about, they're bleeding. You're just worried about, all right, let's get you a Band-Aid and take care of it. You're not worried about gloving up and, all the other stuff that the precautions of looking back
Right.
should
Yeah,
have been and could have been taken.
that's a good point. Were there any symptoms as far, I mean, would you get fatigued easily or maybe bruised easier than normal?
N- Not that I can recall. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember keeping up with everybody really, really well until around the age 14, 15 is when I started to slow down and my body started wearing down.
Okay. Was that associated with a lot of like sickness and illness?
Yeah, every year I would have bronchitis and pneumonia. I would come down with it just about yearly, and it was always associated back to, well, he's got a heart problem. He's got a bad heart.
Hmm.
He's always going to have to deal with these, little battles and different things. And looking back on it, they weren't little battles when your body's battling what it. I know now what I was dealing with.
Right.
I mean, because the virus is unique in the fact that it's a chisel. It's not a knockout haymaker punch.
Mm-hmm.
It's a chisel. It just tears at you slowly. It doesn't try to take you out quick. It wants to slowly just eat away at everything it can.
Right.
And that's what it did to me. I mean, it slowly just chipped away and chipped away and chipped away. And at 15, I had to have my third pacemaker implanted. They only last about 7 years.
Gotcha.
So I was up for my third. So 15 years old back in Augusta. I had the pacemaker implanted. I come out of surgery and I unresponsive, not breathing. They have to jump on the bed. They are actively doing CPR on me in front of my family. They got me back, put me in a room. We're in a completely isolated part of the hospital that is still like under construction. I mean, it was a really weird hospital stay. And looking back on, but they had me isolated.
Okay.
So I think at that point that they had probably taken blood. Well, I know they had taken blood. And they had had the test at that point because it would have been in the 90s. It would have been 90. See if I'm 15, 95.
Okay.
So yeah, they would have been able to know what was in my blood. So that would have been the reason I was in this isolated section of the hospital. So I finally get out of the hospital. I come home. I've got a bad cough. Can't get rid of it. Can't get cleared to go back to school. School starts sending a teacher to the house. And I end up going to a pulmonologist. As soon as I walk in his office, he goes, "Tell me about your medical issues." And I said, "I've got a bad heart." I'm 4 foot tall, 50 pounds at this point. And this man looked at me dead in the face and he goes, "Your heart has nothing to do with your size and weight." He said, "So there's something else here." He said, "We've got to figure it out." And he ran me through a gauntlet of tests. I mean, stuff that I would wish on anybody.
Yeah.
They were looking for everything, and he exhausted every option he could. I spent about a year back and forth with him. Everything came back negative. He finally gave up, and he sent me to the University of Florida to an endocrinologist to get growth hormones, human growth hormone. not growth hormones. But anyway, the stuff all the baseball players got busted for taking, that's
Yeah.
what me. And it really does work.
Okay,
Because
you're hitting home runs at this point.
I gained a foot in height, and
Wow.
I gained about 50 pounds in about 14 months, 16
Dang.
months. So yeah, like I totally understand like why athletes were using it. And I would love to watch like a sports league if they would let them like just make a PD league.
Just go all out, right?
Yeah, like let's watch some monsters like knocking it out in the park all day.
The home run derby used to be fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun. It'd be great. But I found out through the course of doing that, my doctor came to me and said that I was not hitting the metrics that they had laid out for me. I was still below my markers.
Yeah.
What I didn't realize at the time was she was the head of endocrinology. So she was taking my medical chart into classrooms.
Mm.
And what they do is they just take your name and they just, mark it out and they hand it to med students. They say, here's your patient. This is what you have to deal with.
Yeah.
This is everything in the past. What do you do? One girl in the class went through the entire packet, whatever they gave. I'm not sure how much they gave. And she said, he had blood in 85, and I don't see an HIV test. And she was there that day. I got to actually meet her, and they asked me if I would submit to it, and I did. And I had to wait 2 weeks, and this is back in 2001. So we waited 2 weeks. They called, and they told me to bring family. So
Pretty ominous at that point.
Yeah, like pretty much already know what the answer is, right?
Yeah.
And so go back and got both sets of grandparents with me, got my parents. Go back and they start pulling people one by one. And it ended up just being me and my dad's father. Me and him look almost identical. So we're sitting in the room and we're just kind of joking, laughing back and forth. And they finally come and get me and they pull me in. And as soon as they open the door, I see my mom and dad. And they're crying. I don't remember what was said. It just all sounds like, all I can remember was like the sound of like the Charlie Brown teacher, like the wah wah wah.
Yeah.
I don't remember it. I'm like totally zoned out. And they just started handing me a bunch of pamphlets and a bunch of information and this and that, a bunch of different things. And they sent me home. Sent me home for a couple weeks. And they told me, they said, you're either going to have one of two doctors. We have two doctors. One's kind of laid back, chill, kind of funny. The other one's a little more stern, by the book, straight-laced. We're not sure who's going to take your case yet, so we're going to figure that out. We're going to get the right treatment plan for you. So I go home, and I'm reading everything, every pamphlet they gave me, everything I can get my hands on about this virus.
When they initially broke the news, did it really, had it even, you said you couldn't really, you kind of tuned out, did it really sink in, or did that not come yet?
The only thing I knew about it at that point was the Nick News episode that they did with Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that from years ago.
No, the Nick News thing sounds familiar, but I don't remember that in particular.
And there was a Nick News episode. I think you can probably still find it on YouTube. and it's really good. It's still very relevant today.
Okay.
But it's got Magic Johnson in it, and it's all about HIV and AIDS, and it's full of kids that were diagnosed with it. And a couple of them are major advocates right now in the country.
Okay.
And that's all I really knew about it was that. So I was kind of scrambling to like read and figure out like if I was going to have a new enemy, I wanted to learn everything about it because that's what I did with my heart.
Yeah.
Because I learned everything about it. I've always gone into a doctor's office and I've never wanted to be the dumbest person in the room.
Right.
Like, I want to be able to talk to them like they would talk to a peer.
Especially with how frequently you would go.
Yeah. So that's what I did. I sat down and I read and I read and I read and I had it down. So I went back and they finally found me the doc. And I got the laid back, funny, chill doctor. And the first thing he said to me was, was that I would go to his funeral. He wouldn't go to mine. So, and at this point, like my blood work looked terrible.
Yeah.
So he then proceeded to load me down with, I think, 22 or 23 pills a day, 4 times a day schedule, 7, 11, 3, and 11. I will never forget those bedtimes. And it was multiple pills every time. And I mean, they were huge. They were elephant pills. I mean, they were monster pills to take.
Mm.
And he told me, he said, in about 6 months, he said, you're going to end up in the hospital. I'm like, how in the hell do you know that? And he said, well, what's going to happen is, he said, we're going to get your viral load, the amount of the AIDS virus in your blood, we're going to start knocking that down. He said, your body's been hiding other problems. I said, what do you mean? He said, you probably have bronchitis or pneumonia, and we just haven't seen it yet. And he was right. As the viral load dropped, I got really, really sick, and I ended up in the hospital. And I was down in Gainesville for about 2 weeks. And they started running me through every diagnostic nightmare test I could imagine when they finally got the chance to have me there.
And you're still 16 at this point?
Yeah. It got so bad to the point, like, he wouldn't come in the room. I was that irritated and just over it. I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely done. Like, I've got tubes everywhere. Like, you've ran every test. We've done everything. Like, what more do you want? And he finally, like, gave me a day pass, like, get out of the hospital, like, chill, get away from it for a little while. Came back, got done with all that, and he got me to undetectable. I hit undetectable with him, which was great. I never thought I would see that. I thought that was just, that was somebody just saying, we'll get you there, like trying to encourage me. And I never ever thought that I would actually make it. And
Right.
I did. I made it to undetectable. And that med schedule, nightmare, actually worked. And so from there, I started, let's see, I'm in high school. I think I stayed in school for maybe another year before I dropped out of high school because I was just so far behind that I couldn't keep up with my actual class.
Right.
So I just decided to drop out and go get my GED. I was like, why not?
Yeah.
Just go ahead and get this out of the way so I can focus more on my health. So that's what I did. I did that, moved on. Life is going great. Everything's good. And then I just started moving forward, trying to live as normal as I could. But I live in the Southeast, so that's the largest amount of HIV cases you'll ever find.
Oh, really?
Southeast. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the highest number of HIV and AIDS cases in the country.
I did not know that. Interesting.
Yeah. Florida, I think, is the number one state. And then followed by, I'm not sure who they're followed by, but yeah, Southeast is the highest.
Okay.
That's why I do the work I do, is because the Southeast really needs, more people stepping up and speaking and doing everything they can.
Right.
So I moved forward with that, and I met a girl that I thought was really cute because my friends dared me to ask her out. And I asked her out to homecoming because I was still friends with people at school, still allowed back and forth out of school. And I was still of age, so they didn't care. And I asked her to the dance. Wasn't able to make it because I ended up in the hospital. I think I had a little bronchitis bout. I ran into her a couple weeks later, and the first thing she said was, "You stood me up." And it stopped me in my tracks. I was like, "I'm so, so sorry." I thought this girl had given me a fake number. I was afraid to call it. I was young. I was maybe might have been midway between 16 and 17 at that point.
Yeah.
So didn't have the nerve to call the number because this was before everybody had cell phones. You were calling a house phone.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're calling somebody's parents are liable to pick up. You're not calling directly to somebody. So I was intimidated, and she scared me.
Of course.
I was intimidated by her. And she ended up becoming one of my best friends. And so I started hanging out with her a lot. She worked in a restaurant in the mall, and I became a mall rat. I was in the mall a lot. That's about the only thing to do around here. Or was. Our mall's kind of died now. But anyway, back then, that was where everybody was. So I'm back and forth, spending time with her. And this is when computers came out with CD burners. So I started making mixed CDs. So I was making mixed CDs for her with all the new music, her favorite music. Not really thinking anything of it. And all of a sudden, I find out that these CDs are making it into nightclubs around town. And the DJs are using them.
What?
So she calls me one night and she goes, "I'm going out tonight." And I'm like, "Well, all right, cool. Have fun." And at this point, I'm 18, maybe 19. And she goes, "You should go with me." I said, how in the hell can I go with you? She's like, don't worry about it. Just come on and go. So I go with her. The guy at the door doesn't stop me. He just waves me in. And I end up meeting the DJ. And he goes, oh my God, thank you for coming. He goes, I have no clue what these songs are, but everybody keeps requesting them. So I ended up in the DJ booth with the DJ. And this is when the 3-deck CD players were a thing. So the DJ would have just CDs lined up. And they're just switching CDs in and out. So that became my job, was lining up CDs and putting post-it notes going, play track, this track on this one, this track here, this track here, this track here. And I got so good at it and packing a dance floor that these DJs started looking at me and they said, you should really think about doing this. I'm like, well, I have no clue. I have no clue about all the other stuff.
Yeah.
I know how to load a CD player, but I don't know a thing when it comes to mixing. To a mixer. I don't know speakers, audio equipment. I don't know anything about that. So I started hanging out with a bunch of DJs. And that became something that I really, really loved. And so I'm hanging out with the DJs, and my friend that had gotten me in the club loved karaoke. That was her thing. So we were in there one night for karaoke night. I never had the nerve to do it. I had gone probably for a year and a half, 2 years with her. I was just there to hang out, have fun, make sure that nobody bothered her.
Yep.
One night I get the nerve up. Like, I'm going to try this, see if I can do it. And this is when cell phones had come out with the little flip camera phones. And I sang a song that will haunt me for the rest of my life, but haunt me in the best way possible.
I love it.
It's a song everyone knows. It's a song everyone will sing along to. And because everyone knew me from being in the club, I didn't need the screen with the words.
Right.
I already knew it. It's Ice Ice Baby.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, don't tell me Chumbawamba.
And the club had just gotten wireless microphones. So I took off around this entire club and had everybody up singing along with me.
Oh yeah, everybody stopped, they collaborated, and they listened.
So we end up doing that, go home. I get a call the next night from a number I don't recognize. I answer it. Who's this? It's the owner of the club. And he goes, all I've heard about all day is this guy that came in and sang Ice Ice Baby last night and that's been hanging out with my DJ. Like, who are you? You need to come back up and do it again. Because this was now a Saturday night.
Okay.
Because we had done it on I think it was a Thursday night we had been in there. And I said, well, it's not karaoke night. He said, I don't care. He said, it's karaoke night for you. I said, all right. And so I'll be out there. So when I hung out with the DJ, we waited until the place was packed. And then we did the Ice Ice Baby thing again. And everybody went crazy. And the owner of the club, he said, I want you to become a DJ here. He said, you're going to start apprenticing and learning from my guys. So I did. That's what I did. I started hanging out and they taught me everything I needed to know to run karaoke, to run a mixer, to run all the equipment, and to do it. And I ended up taking off on my own. And for years, like, nobody really knew what to call me. So I was DJ D-REK, I was DJ Little D, I was
Oh, DJ Little D is not great.
Yeah, I was like, that one's horrible. Like, we're just getting rid of that. Like, call me anything but that. And one night, a friend of mine, I'd been doing it for a couple of years, he just looked at me and he said, D-REK. And I said, I'm keeping that. I said, I'm keeping that damn name. And he thought I was joking. I said, nope. I said, that is mine. And this is right when Wild 'N Out had come out.
Okay.
He had DJ D-REK. And everybody thought I stole it from him. And I was like, no, it's actually from a radio DJ friend of mine gave me that name. And so I took off on my own and I started DJing. And I built my confidence up from being behind a board and just building crowds and building a repertoire. And that gave me the confidence to then go out and become an advocate.
Okay.
A switch just kind of flipped in my head when I looked around and I realized, I was like, if I can do all of this and get this many people excited, why can't I take that energy and put it into something that will really make a difference in the world? Not that the DJing wasn't making a difference in the world, because, you know, that's the way people get out, let off steam. Like, you know, rough weeks, they come out, they enjoy their night. Like, that's making a difference in its own way.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do something where I felt really passionate about it, something where I felt I could make a really big difference. And so I started looking around at different HIV advocates, and all I could find was gay men. And that bothered me.
Right.
Because I said, I'm a heterosexual white male.
Yeah, obviously it didn't bother you that, you know, people are gay, but it just bothered you that that was the only representation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I looked around and looked at, like, you can go on Twitter right now and look up HIV stigma, and the majority of the comments are going to be jokes about gay men and it's a gay disease. And there's so much misinformation in that arena.
Yeah.
And I had the ability, and I had a story that's so unique. I realized how powerful it is, and that I could use it to really capture the attention. Absolutely. And to hold people and to, you know, kind of sit them up in their seat. But my problem that I run into now is that people tell me I'm not relatable because of my mode of transmission. I didn't get it from sexual contact. Yeah. So now I'm having to fight the battle of, I'm not really speaking on my mode of how I got the virus is not really what I'm there to speak on.
Yeah.
I'm there to speak on the stigma surrounding it. I'm there to speak on the issue of heterosexual men are not underrepresented massively.
Yeah. That's such an odd thing to knock you for, though. I mean, the fact that'd be like if you were advocating for handicap ramps and people said, "Oh, well, you weren't born handicapped; you just got in a car accident." That's a very odd critique of you to have for people to have of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you get into some very strange and weird arguments when it comes into when being an advocate. It's really weird. I've gotten into some just off the wall, oddball discussions.
Right.
When it comes down to it, because people just want to argue. And so I've really had to learn to pick my battles and figure out where the fight is worth it when it comes to that,
Yeah.
because the stigma is so bad that people will always run to, well, my grandma says or my mom says, and it's really hard to look at somebody and go, well, your grandmother's wrong. Let me explain to you why. And then not automatically go, you what?
Right.
You know, they'll jump back and want to, kind of attack you.
I think
And
it's very
if,
important for you to be an advocate because it's so unique, so that people can be aware of the circumstances and take more precautions, I would imagine, right? I mean, if you don't even know that's a mode of transmission, then you might not be as careful and as such.
yeah, and thankfully, like that, the chances of getting it from a blood transfusion now are minimal, because blood, every bit of blood that is put into a blood bank is screened for that now.
Okay.
Back in 85, there was no screening process.
Hmm.
When the screening process actually started, blood banks dumped all their blood.
That makes
I,
sense.
I was supposed to be put into a national look back registry, and my name never made it on the list,
Gotcha.
or I would have been found earlier.
Huh.
And I may have had the chance to not be 5 foot and just struggling to maintain 100 pounds right now if they would have put me in that look back, if they would
Right.
have called it when I was 1, 2, 3 years old and
Now,
got.
with the initial diagnosis, I mean, were your parents trying to have any repercussions? I mean, were they trying to sue anyone? I mean, what was that like?
There was a suit that came from it.
Okay.
There was a lawsuit that came from it, and that was a very long, drawn out process. That those you can look it up online, but there's a statute of limitations
Mm.
that we ran into, that you have. Let me see if I can get this right. I think it's 2 years, or it was 2 years from date of injury to file a claim. My case brought up a scenario that had never been brought up before.
Right.
What if you don't know you're injured?
Yeah. That's wild.
Like, what if you don't know you're injured? Nobody had ever brought that up before. So the case actually went all the way from Brunswick to Atlanta, from Atlanta to an appeals court, back to Atlanta, to the U.S. Supreme Court, back to Atlanta, and then back to Brunswick. I actually changed the law. The law got changed
How long did
in
that take?
over 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah, over 7 years in court, fighting back and forth. And the press that did run a couple stories about the case, the comments on the stories were brutal. I had to try to keep my family offline a lot and keep them away from reading a lot of things, because a lot of it was really hard to read.
Yeah.
And it really showed the stigma of how bad it was.
Were there people that were blaming your parents?
There were people saying that I should be thankful I'm alive. There were people saying that, more questions should have been asked before you just hand your kid over. Like, who does that? And a lot of it was my family was told it was a medical emergency.
Yeah.
But now, if a kid is born with that same condition, they don't get surgery or anything. The body actually figures it out and reverses the blood flow on its own.
Huh.
And the body will correct it on its own. That's how, wild and miraculous, the body is.
Yeah.
You know, it,
So 7 years goes by, and then what's the end result for you and your family?
we won the case. I changed the law.
Okay.
The law has actually helped a lot of other cases around the country. I check every now and again. I'll do a Google search and look at it and see how many times like my case has been referenced by others. And it is cool to see
Yeah.
that, it's helping a lot of other people to make their claims
Absolutely.
easier in court. Because, I mean, there's somebody's always got to come first. I mean, I damn sure didn't want to be the guy. But
Has anyone contacted you since then who's been has had a similar situation?
no, I don't think they have. But they would have to look into what their lawyers and attorneys were looking at and referencing. It's a lot of boring paperwork to read through.
Gotcha.
And, Article 7, this and that kind of writing. Like, it's not fun stuff to read. It's really not fun stuff to read.
So you're just starting to get familiar with doing performances and really putting yourself out there, and that's how you were able to transition from the DJ into going to these conferences, right, and speaking with different people. To be a DJ, just in general, to begin with, I think just from knowing what it's like to pick songs and just being at parties and picking songs and stuff, you kind of have to have a certain emotional intelligence to you to kind of read the room and know what people want to hear. And for someone who spent so much time dealing with your own self and your own problems, I mean, how could you possibly have developed an emotional awareness of people around you when you had to deal with yourself so much?
I've always kind of been able to do that. I'm not a fan of me because of all the health issues.
Yeah.
So if I can be outside of my own head at any moment, I grab at it. I
Okay.
run to it as fast as I can. So it was very natural, and it almost was very easy to watch a room of people and to find those groups that I needed and watch how they were moving to figure out what song would go next, what would lay next to bring in more, what would lay next to bring in more, and make it just that huge party.
Yep.
And it's all because I'm not much of a fan of me. I love the opportunity to be able to make somebody else happy.
And once you've done it, I mean, once you've DJ'd or done comedy or any sort of performance where people are feeding off of an energy that you've kind of created, I mean, it's so powerful and addicting, and you just want to keep doing it. And it's an awesome feeling. So I can only imagine the type of that's almost a drug in itself, right? The acknowledgement and attention, like, oh, D-REK picked this song. This is why everyone's dancing and feeling the vibe right now because DJ D-REK is here. So yeah, I can only imagine the boost in confidence. I mean, must have given you from constantly being the little guy, the corner of the room, and it's like, no, I did this. I'm the reason the party started.
Yeah. I mean, one of the funniest bars I worked at, or one of the funniest clubs I worked at, was from the first place I worked. One of the guys actually broke away and opened another club of his own. Well, he called me and he stole me from the original bar. and they were building a DJ booth. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't care. I'm like, well, just call me whenever it's open. You know, I'm not worried about your construction portion. That's not any of my concern.
Yep. Just hand me the mic and I'll take over.
Yeah, just call me when you're ready to actually run. And so I get to the club like the week leading up to the actual opening. The guy that built the DJ booth is also a DJ. He's 6'4". So he built a 6 foot tall DJ booth. That's going to be a problem. So I had stairs.
Yep. Yep.
They built me stairs that were just fine behind the DJ booth. They carved my name into it and had LED lights built into the side. So we would leave the door to the DJ booth open if I was ever working so everybody could see my name lit up and me standing on the staircase up above everybody. And when I was on the staircase, I was actually over 7 foot tall. So it worked out because I could see everything. I could see the entire club, which is what I needed.
Now, are you up there? You got, the headphone on one ear and you got it off of the other ear and you're doing your thing?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. What's the, is it typically, are you doing any event that they'll call you for, or do you usually prefer like nightclubs, birthdays, or have you done, school dances, things like that?
I've done a little bit of everything. I have worked for Wounded Warriors, the American Cancer Society, American Heart Association, nightclubs, birthdays, weddings, kids' parties. I mean, a divorce party. I've done that. That was a fun one. I did a celebration of life for a friend. That was great. I mean, I'll do whatever I'm called and asked to do. Every event, it's got its own kind of energy and style to it, and they're all fun. And I kind of run to all of them because they are so fun and unique and different. And the fact that statistically I'm not even supposed to be here, I'm like, that's why I do it.
Yeah.
Is because I shouldn't have the opportunity.
Right.
Every book on every doctor's shelf says this guy's dead. I mean, even my doctor now I've asked him that. I'm like, doesn't every book, like, because I've gone in his office, I'm like, every one of those books tells you I'm dead, doesn't it? And he goes, yeah. He said, but you're proof that those books aren't law.
Right.
He
now,
said,
is that appreciation for life, is that something that you immediately felt after your diagnosis, or is that kind of taken a few years?
That took a long time to really get there.
Yeah.
My initial emotion and main emotion still to this day is anger towards the diagnosis.
Yeah.
It's a lot of anger. And recently, it was about 7 weeks ago, I was here in the house and I was getting ready for bed with my wife, and I was taking my meds, and I walked out of the bathroom and I was talking to her, and I just collapsed and I started seizing. And I had a possible stroke. I still don't know exactly what happened yet.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the process of still dealing with doctors and getting the diagnosis nailed down. But I know I had at least 5 seizures, grand mal seizures. And I'm last time I went to the cardiologist, I was fine with them. They didn't see any problems. I had 3 years left on this pacemaker. I'm undetectable with the virus, and I still got hit. And I called my cardiologist. I went to the cardiologist just to check in with them and to have some diagnostic testing done. And everything came back fine. And I looked at him and I said, "How is that possible?"
Yeah.
I said, "Somebody's got to talk to me and tell me honestly, how does that work?" And he said, "You've just shown that law of you can do everything right and life still happens." He said, "I hate to say that to you." He said, "This is the hardest conversation I've had in a long time with a patient." He said, "But it's still," he said, "We don't know why." He said, "I hope that you're able to get answers." He said, "Everything looks okay with us, and I'm still, going through some testing with them. I'm got to go do some more testing coming up throughout this month, and I'll keep you updated on what I find out." But
Please do.
yeah,
Yeah.
they yeah, you can do everything right even after a major medical diagnosis, and life still, a train still comes around you over. And it's scary. So that's why I take every opportunity that's kind of laid out in front of me.
Do you, I mean, as far as like a support network, have you been able to find it all from loved ones and family? Are you a religious person? Like, where does your faith and confidence come from?
I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school growing up.
Okay.
8 years in a Catholic school, and so very, you know, went through all of that. When I got diagnosed, that relationship with God got pretty dicey
Yeah.
because it just was like, I read all the stories, God is good, God is great, and then the sucker punch just comes and like knocks you down,
Were you,
and you don't.
did it make you not believe for a little while, or did you believe God was bad? I mean, did that lead to an atheism, or just you just didn't like God? How did that play out?
I stopped praying. I stopped going to church. I just kind of put my head down, and
Yeah.
I upset my family a lot because I would one of my go-to phrases, like when I would go to a doctor's appointment, was "God's gonna sit this one out," because I had taken the meds, and the meds are highly toxic.
Yeah.
The HIV meds are, I mean, still to this day, are highly, highly toxic. And but I'm gaining that back slowly
Okay.
with having a relationship now, and I'm building that back. I'm seeing a future that I never thought I would have, and I'm seeing a life that I never thought I would have. And so I'm slowly kind of coming back around to that.
Yeah.
I never lost the value system of it, which I think is a big reason why I am probably still here. Was I did hold to like the core value of it, of like find the strength in yourself and like just keep pushing forward.
Right.
And the like everybody's got their cross to bear. And one of the things that I was taught in school was like the cross you bear is not for you to learn from. It's for others.
Yeah. That's yeah. Um, How'd you meet your wife?
Online gaming, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we play in Fortnite.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How long? I mean, so you just talked for a little while, and then what made you? How'd you finally meet?
I actually, we were just one night, we were talking and playing the game, and I just told her, I said, check your messages. She goes, what do you mean, check my messages? I said, just check your messages. And she did, and it was a screenshot of a ticket for an airplane ticket. And I
Wow.
was going to fly out to see her.
What a
'Cause
move.
she lived all the way in Washington State. So,
All the way across the country.
yeah, like they put her on the wrong coast. I always joke with her about that. Like, she's from the wrong coast, and she's kind of mad at herself because she said her first y'all the other day. She's been in Georgia just over a year now, and she finally let out her first y'all. And
Yeah,
she's
it kind of hits you funny when you first hear yourself say it.
yeah, she's catching herself like saying words different a little bit, and she's like, "Oh, I can't stand it."
So she knew. Did she know your whole, I mean, life story before she came out here?
She told me one night that I wasn't paying attention. We were playing the game, and I let it slip that I had written a book. And in the game, I would just be playing music and
Yep.
stuff. And sometimes she would see like playing music, it's playing from this playlist or whatever.
Yeah.
When I was dumb and not thinking, I had put my DJ name on one of my playlists. And that's what I was playing. And I said, I wrote a book. And she looked at my DJ name and found the book from that. And and she got a copy of the book. And she read it, and she said, I just have to meet you. She goes, I'm just really inspired by everything I read.
Wow.
She goes, your story is incredible. And I always thought, like, if anybody read the book, I'm like, they're going to run as fast as they can away from me. Like, that's, like, the book's a nightmare. Like,
Well, you let me actually pull that up here. So you mentioned the book. Have it up here on Amazon.com. The book is called Operation D-REK by D-REK Canas. The description: he was infected as an infant via a blood transfusion, but not diagnosed with AIDS until 16 years later. D-REK, now founder of the #End the Stigma campaign, tells a story. And that's available on Amazon for anyone who'd like to go check it out. When did you start writing this, D-REK?
2018. I'm gotta try to remember 2016, 2018.
Okay.
Somewhere around in there is when I started writing it.
And when did you get finished?
Need to actually write a new updated version because it ends actually when I'm about 30.
Okay.
So it doesn't go into all the stuff that has happened since then. Because it kind of ends and my life kept going. I didn't.
People don't think you died, do they?
I didn't think about that. I didn't think there was going to be much to write about after I wrote the original book, and there's now become a whole nother book in the past few years.
Gotcha. We can dig into some of the conferences and some of the stigma you'd like to talk about. I mean, when did you first go to a meeting or a conference, and how did you find out about it?
The first conference I went to was last year. I've been to a couple conferences virtually.
Okay.
like we're doing right now. I've done those, and those are fun, but it's different when you get to go to an actual conference and sit with people face to face and
Yeah.
have that interaction. And that was last year. I flew to DC
Okay.
and spoke at Howard University.
It must
At
have been
the
really powerful to be around people.
It was the International Conference on Stigma. So it was doctors from all over the world were there and watching, all over. So the story of me is, I mean, I get messages from Kenya, from Ghana, from South Africa, from France, from all over
Ah.
Europe. I mean, it's incredible the people I've met because of the virus.
Yeah, what an
And
odd thing for such a negative thing to bring such a positive storyline for you. I mean, that's crazy.
it really is when I look back on it, the amount of good things that have actually come from it, from a thing that I initially despised
Of
and
course.
hated. I've come to kind of embrace, and I wear like a badge now. And I'm very, very proud to say, you know what? Yeah, I do live with it, and I'm thriving with it, and I will continue to fight it, and I'll continue to fight the stigma of it because people shouldn't have to be ashamed of it. You shouldn't have to be able hiding. You shouldn't have to deal with somebody bullying you over it. You shouldn't have to fear for your job over it. You shouldn't have to fear somebody being afraid to use a cup after you or use utensils after you or the bathroom after you. And these, by the way, these are all myths from the early 90s. And we're still talking about them in 2023, almost
Yeah.
2024.
Yep.
That's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Have you and your wife, I mean, is there any discussion of do you guys want to have kids?
We're past the age where I'm coming up on 40 and I don't know that I would have the energy.
No adoption, not even in the cards?
And we haven't really talked about it. She
Yeah.
actually was adopted.
Okay.
So, I mean, and
My wife was as well.
we haven't talked about it, but it's not off the table for me. Like, I would love to, you know, I my thing is I don't know how long I would be around.
That's fair.
So it I don't want to do that to a kid. I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to, be around for a few years and then gone. Like if I wish I could have met her 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, that's so heavy. I mean, as a father of two, I mean, I can't express like the joy of what it means, but I also have no idea to put myself in your shoes. I mean, it would be impossible. So I to try and be like, no, you should definitely do it. It is ridiculous for me to say, but I mean, if you do have any sort of inclination towards it, my wife's adopted. All my 7 nieces and nephews are adopted. I mean, it's a really fantastic thing. But yeah, obviously, it's something for you and your wife to discuss. Absolutely. But yeah,
We talk about it all the time. Like I have baby fever bad. Like right now, I don't. That's all that's on my like TikTok feed and then on Facebook. Like keep showing me videos of babies. Like I keep joking with her like I want to have a Scottish baby. I don't know why that Facebook like sends me those videos, but they're hilarious.
Well, with the toy drive that you're doing, I mean, obviously that sends a message that you're all about the kids and you love seeing the smiles and stuff. How's that been going so far?
It went great. It went very, very well. We raised over 1,000. We collected over 1,000 toys yesterday.
I saw you. I mean, one was from the police force there in Brunswick, right? But then another was from Florida. You got a whole batch of toys from?
No, it's all the same place.
Oh,
It's
okay.
what it is. What kind of gets confused is we have a down in Jacksonville, Florida. There's a Wolfson Children's Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Wolfson Children's Hospital actually has a campus here in Brunswick, right beside the hospital.
Okay.
So the toys that were donated yesterday will float between the pediatric ward and the hospital,
Oh, great.
and then go over to the other two. So
Okay.
wherever the toys are needed, they will float to.
So do they have a certain a website or anything that people, if they want to donate directly to them, can go to?
The hospital,
Yeah. Which hospital is it?
Southeast Georgia Health Systems.
Okay. Okay.
But I have a an Amazon wish list
Okay.
that people can go to with toys, and there's a gift registry address, and you can send toys directly to the hospital that way.
And that's under D-REK Canas, Canas.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to that.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So, I mean, is there anything else before we get out of here? I know you said are you currently working on that second book, or is that just something that you're kind of in the process now, like in the more mind stage?
It's what I've been wanting to actually do is go back and reread the first book and write out the surgeries, or go through the surgeries one by one. And I'm going to write a book and call it the lessons through the pain of what I learned through every surgery and
Yeah.
every diagnosis, and what life lesson it taught.
Okay.
Because there's always something that came from it.
Right.
I always learned something different about myself every time that I've been hit, sadly. I mean, it's like Mike Tyson, his famous quote, like, everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the mouth.
True.
I mean, that's the way I've always looked at life. I mean, and it's totally true. Like, you don't know. You don't know how you're going to react. You don't know if you've got fight or flight. You don't. Like, nobody does.
No, it's like everyone who wants to carry a gun for self-defense, it's like, that's fine. You can go to a shooting range all day, every day, but once someone grabs you in the middle of the night and you have to use that weapon, in the moment, just like you're talking about fight or flight, I mean, it's a whole nother ball game when and in the moment, preparing for it's one thing, but are you going to be able to do it when the time comes? Yeah.
Yeah, like, can you execute when it comes down to it?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping the second book will be, that I am currently, now that I'm past the toy drive, I can kind of sit down and focus on that a little bit more to try and write, because I definitely do want to write that, because I think it will help a lot of people that are going through difficult situations.
Yeah.
To maybe look to and be like, you know what? There is reasons things happen. And it does show you. Like, I always wanted, my grandfathers were both in the military, and I hated that I could never be in the military because of my health. Because I always wanted that ability to know where I was in life, to have a rank, that kind of like system of like, where are you at? Where's your level at? What level of aptitude are you running at?
Right.
And sadly, I have to ask doctors that question to get it for me. But every single doctor I had, they're like, you're so far off the scale, like, we don't even know what to call you. Like, you're you're not even statistically supposed to be here. So you've won. Like, what do you want?
What type of, do you try to do other things like jogging or maybe walking or lifting? Or is there any sort of thing you try to supplement with, or to keep it active and build the system?
Oh yeah, I work out every day. I'm trying to stay as active as possible. I mean, that's I'm trying to stay as active and a go as I can, and I still got hit with that knock, and I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
There's no good. There's no right or wrong. That's what I'm figuring out. Like, there's no right or wrong way to make it through this thing called life.
Yeah, that's true. How about when you need a bathroom break and you're DJing? Do you love to put on one bourbon, one scotch, one beer?
No, I'll actually throw on either the wobble, the Cupid shuffle, cha cha slide, anything that, it's horrible to say it, but in the DJ world, they're kind of known as like cattle call songs
Yeah.
because you can pack a dance floor with those
Yep.
like really quick. And that would give me my exit out to, take care of the bathroom breaks. But what I always hated was when bar owners, if any bar owner is watching, build a bathroom near the DJ booth.
There you go.
Quit building the bathrooms on the other side of the restaurant. Quit making the bathroom breaks easy for the bartender and difficult for the DJ. I can't tell you how many times I've had to just plow my way through a couple hundred people to get to a bathroom and then kind of jump around bartenders and up and under arms. And
Now, do you drink yourself or do you stay sober?
I did for a little while, but now my health's kind of, I'm on medication I can't drink with and stuff like that, especially after the seizure.
Yeah.
Can't even drive for 6 months right now. So
Mm.
yeah,
I mean,
I found that out. That was a new thing.
has that affected like work and things like that? How's that going?
No, actually, I'm on disability,
Okay.
so yeah, I'm completely disabled because of the AIDS diagnosis. So
Were you
works.
driving yourself to DJ events before, or were you usually getting a ride anyway?
I'm usually riding with someone anyway because I have somebody that has to help set up.
Gotcha.
I'm usually busy with either the venue owner or a bride or a bridesmaid or somebody. I've got a folder with music. I'm going over last minute things. I've got somebody else setting up all the equipment and getting it ready where I can just walk over and go to work.
Perfect. Do you and your wife still play Fortnite, or have you moved on to another
We'll still
adventure?
play Fortnite.
Okay.
We still play.
Who's better?
She is.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
she's more of like a melee kind of style player. She'll run out in the middle. I like to play more kind of a sniper.
Yep.
So I'll sit back and let her do that, and I'll tell her where people are. Be like, all right, stay back, kind of, and move people, this way so I can get the shot. Like, kind of move them this way. And then, I mean, you'll just hear, I'm like, we just ruined some probably bad kids night.
Did you want to shout out your gamer tag in case people want to join you sometime?
Oh, let me see what my gamer tag actually is.
Absolutely. I'm going to put your book back up here real quick, too, before we get out of here so people can get a good look at it. Thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. This has been great. It's fun. Xbox. They make it so hard to find your gamer tag. And the bad thing is, this computer used to be logged into the Xbox all the time.
And now it's all logged out.
Yeah, it's DJ D-REK 912.
DJ D-REK 912. Anyone out there on Xbox? Do they do? Is it all cross-platform now, or still?
It's all it's cross-platform.
Okay.
Now.
So there you go, DJ D-REK 912. If you're ever gaming on Fortnite, check him out. Hop in that party and take him down.
We're having a good time playing music, just goofing off, killing some time.
Do you stream on Twitch as well?
No, not really. Not really much of a streamer. Never really got into it. Don't really have time.
That's fair.
I wish I had the time to do it. And I'm not smart enough to even set it up. I tried one time and I gave up. I downloaded OBS and it kicked my butt enough that I just gave up.
Well, Derek, I certainly appreciate you've been more than generous with your time and going everything through your journey. With the stigma and all the the book and obviously the diagnosis and everything with the DJ. So, listen, thank you so much for joining me today. You've had a heck of a journey. I hope people take the time to check out the book and check out your story. Is there anything in particular as far as your email, maybe your X handle you'd like to share for people to contact you, or no?
If anybody needs to get in touch with me, it's info.djdrek.com is the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay.
And that's for whatever you need. If you need a DJ, if you need a speaker at an event, I speak at colleges, I speak any opportunity I have to speak on the virus, I will. I'm always looking for those opportunities, and I'm always looking for opportunities to be on stage to have some fun with everybody too. So
now, where we are, I mean, you mentioned that it's the most prevalent in the Southeast, which is kind of ironic because most people, maybe it's not so much in 2023, but when I was a kid, certainly you would make fun of the South for being ignorant and racist and sexist, homophobic, all that sort of thing. Do you experience that when you share your story down here, or is it not so much that case?
When I share my story, I don't get too much kind of, I don't know what you would call it, like fray or hate coming back towards me.
That's good.
Because the story kind of sets people back so much.
Yes.
Because they did it's so shocking of a story. It's a story that's just not expected.
Right.
It's not the usual HIV story.
Yeah, I felt weird, admitting it the way I did, but yeah, when I first pictured it, it was okay, either, like you said, it was either some sort of sexual thing or some sort of drug encounter, but it's neither one of those. So that just, again, I'm an example of the stigma myself. I had no idea that was even a situation.
Yeah, it sets people back so much that I've encountered more people getting upset and wanting, they don't know how to react. To end up comforting them and being like, I'm fine. Like, I promise I'm fine. Like, I'm not a Fabergé egg. Like, I'm not going to fall apart on you. But I've also met, I've had friends that when they found out, told me they had family members, that had it, that they had taken care of family members that had it, that they had, lost people that, I've met and heard so many stories. And it's so strange to think that something that I absolutely despise has led me to meeting so many great people, you included.
Well, I appreciate that, and it is very ironic. Life is like a box of chocolates, as Forrest Gump would say.
Yeah, it's wild how it'll throw you around, but apparently there is a rhyme and a reason to it in the end.
I guess so. Well, D-REK, again, thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad to have made a new friend in you. I hope absolutely you'll stick in touch with me and we can continue this. We can do a second, third, fourth, fifth podcast. I can find out hopefully nothing bad is going on with the stroke thing, and it was just a one time. Maybe you just got lightheaded. You didn't have enough water in your something like that, and definitely keep us posted with that because I'm sure everyone is interested. And you have a very powerful story, and the way you share it, the way you come across emotionally, I felt it. I appreciate it, and like I said, just anyone who is a DJ, it's kind of weird to say it, but like I said, anyone who's a DJ has some sort of emotional intelligence. So it's just kind of the rest of it's figuring out, okay, where did it come from and how does it manifest itself? And you're truly an inspiration. And like you said, I mean, there's hardly any stories like yours. So for you to be willing to come on and so openly talk about it is just powerful in itself. And I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for giving me a platform to share it.
Yeah,
I
man.
really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Canas, I guess we'll wrap it up here. But if there's anything finally you'd like to say, I know I keep saying that, but if there's any final message for anyone you got before we get out of here?
I'm trying to think. It's from Rocky. Damn it, I lost it. Oh, it's a speech that he tells his son. It's about life hitting you and how it'll keep hitting you. It's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Couldn't agree more. That's a very it's also martial arts as well. My dad has a tattoo on his forearm. It's something like 7 times down, 8 times up.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, and that's very true.
Absolutely. Well, it's not as easy for everyone, it's not as easy for you as it might be for someone who stubbed their toe, but it's certainly a saying that everyone can point to. And again, I really appreciate you taking the time, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, listeners, and we will see you next time.